Today and for the rest of my life,
I take you to be my wife.
I take you to be my husband. I promise to love you unconditionally,
Regardless of the circumstances,
in abundance or without,
in sickness or in health,
for better or for worse. I promise to build you up with my words,
to lead you,
to follow you,
to protect you,
to respect you, and to do everything I can
to see you fulfill God's plan for your life.
Guys, we're glad you're here. Hey, how many of you can remember your wedding vow? How many could say it verbatim right now? Oh, the hands went down real quick. You know, it's interesting, isn't it, that on your wedding day, one of the most significant moments is the thing we actually probably couldn't recite if we had to. It's kind of interesting. Maybe we remember the cake. Anybody remember the cake? Spent a lot of money. How many remember the venue? Right? And then when you left, you go, that could have been a house, but we had a wedding instead, right? How many of you remember the drama between the wedding party, right? Hopefully they're not here. That's awkward if they are, right? We remember, it's funny, we remember a lot of things about our wedding. There were a lot of wonderful moments, but did you know that that's awkward, that there's toilet paper all over the floor? Did you know that really the most important thing that happened at your wedding was when you told each other that you will spend the rest of your life together? You remember? I know you know that. Guys, you should be shaking your head just in case. All right? I'm going to help you out tonight. That is so significant. And it's just interesting to me. And by the way, Sarah and I did that. We did the vocals on that, and we were reading off a paper, okay? So we're not any different. But it was interesting to me as I was preparing for that little video, and it just dawned on me that it was kind of sad that I couldn't remember the promise that I meant with all of my heart when we stood in front of all of those witnesses that were watching us kind of like right now, all right, making that promise. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight, actually for the next couple weeks. We just thought as we do this Thought of the Week segment of our night that we would go back to where it all started, the wedding vow. And we'd take each week and just break down a little part and just remind ourselves, just to be encouraged of that vow, that promise that we made to each other, and hopefully remind ourselves of what it meant, and maybe even, to an extent, renew that vow as we spend this time together. Now, I want to encourage you, if you are engaged, nothing we say here tonight counts as your wedding. Just make that very, very clear, okay? This does not count as your wedding, so don't try it, but that's clever if you do. Now, here's what we're going to look at tonight. Today, and for the rest of my life, I take you to be my husband or my wife. Let's do something fun. Why don't you turn to your spouse if they're here tonight? I know some are not. If they're here tonight, and just say that from memory. Take it off the screen. From memory, because you mean it. Take it. All right, there we go. Try it. Just real quick, just try it. If your spouse isn't here, just say it to someone random. All right, that's good. Good practice. Now, on your way home, you might practice that again. You might even take the ring off and say, hey, let's try this again, babe. I don't know. That's all for you. But tonight, what I want to look at is that little segment of the marriage vow, because it's so important. Now, let's look at the first word. What does it say? Today. What happened on that day? On that day, you started something new. You were leaving your parents and your family. Did you know that was a significant moment in your wedding day? Did you know that? You were leaving your parents and the safety net, and I know every story is a little different, but the safety net of your family that was raising you and molding you and shaping you and spanking you, and you left that and you stepped into a new day with a new person for the rest of your life. Something new took place on that day. Genesis 2:24, just one verse I want to encourage you with. Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother. A woman shall leave her father and mother. Hold fast to his wife, hold fast to his husband, and they shall become one flesh. So something new started But then what came after? Today and for the rest of my life. You said it doesn't matter who crosses my path. It doesn't matter how difficult it gets. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what you say to me. It doesn't matter. From this day forward, forever, you are my girl. You are my guy. Now, what's sad is, unfortunately, in our culture today, we know that marriage has really lost a lot of value. We know that divorce is, I don't even need to say it, an all-time high. It's just the norm. I remember years ago driving down the highway seeing the sign. Maybe you remember 1-800-DIVORCE or 1-800-FREEDOM. That's what it was. Y'all remember that? Anybody see that? 1-800-FREEDOM. And I remember thinking, oh, it must be a church thing, right? That's a churchy word. This will be great. And then I looked at it and it said divorce. And I thought, wow, great marketing. Horrible situation. But that's the culture we live in, right? It's almost normal. This is very interesting. I'll tell you why I think that is. One big reason why. One, obviously, there's not a sacredness to the vow that we made. But I'll tell you also, because so many people, and be encouraged by this, but I want you to hear this. Because so many people start moving in and living together so early that essentially what's happened is you got married. You just didn't have paperwork with it. And so you can imagine if you do that a couple times over a time period, you've prepared yourself. You've molded, if you will, yourself to that new mentality that, hey, if it doesn't work out, it's okay. We'll just move out. We'll start over again. So what's happened in our culture is we've made it normal that we would break up, because divorce now is no different than breaking up. Mind. Our hope tonight is to just encourage you, not to beat you over the head, but to encourage you to say, no, we made a promise that no matter what, forever. In fact, we made a covenant, not a contract. Maybe you've heard this before. Right? A contract says, hey, as long as you do your part and bring that creamy jalapeno, as long as you do your part, I'm in. I'm yours. I'm your guy. Whatever you need. My wife's over there, by the way, just for sake here. But if you don't bring that creamy jalapeno, and if you don't raise those kids, and if you don't take out the trash, sorry, babe, and do the dishes and all of those things, I'm done. I'm out of here. That's what a contract says. But you know what a covenant says? A covenant says, no matter what. It doesn't matter if you go through a season of your life where you're struggling, I am yours no matter what. It doesn't matter if you treat me wonderfully, and I hope you will, but if you treat me badly, it's okay because I'm going to love you because that's the promise that I made. See, there was a difference on that wedding day when we made a covenant, not a contract. I hope we can be encouraged tonight and not lose the value of that moment. I hope you'll take a second to remember that moment, to reflect on that, the promise that was made, and how important that it was. Some of you, by the way, this is just encouragement, you might need to go renew your vows. Maybe you weren't, maybe you didn't do it in kind of a, not that it has to be at a church, but maybe you didn't have a pastor officiate, or maybe really you didn't understand what you were doing. You thought you were just getting married, and that's not a mandate. Please hear that. But I might encourage you to think about that. If you think, wait, you know what? I wish we had started differently. I wish we had a little bit more of a God-centered ceremony. Hey, by all means, you can go do it again. Just throwing it out there as an idea. Let's look at the next part. Then it says, I take you, or I choose you. Did you know you chose your spouse? Yes. You could have picked anybody in the entire world, and you picked them. Why? Sorry, I didn't mean that in a mean way. Good luck, buddy. Your drive's going to be bad. Just saying. Why did you pick her? Why did you pick him? Because they had all the qualities you were looking for, right? Because you knew they were the one, they were going to take care of you and you were going to take care of them. They were going to raise kids well, or you were going to watch them raise kids well, whatever that was for you. But whatever it was, you said, this is the one. And I could have anyone in the world, but I choose them. Wow. Listen, everyone in the room, we should puff up just a little bit. They chose me. They could have had anyone in the world, but they chose me. But here's the encouragement to you. You chose them. There's no going back on that. That's a good thing. But there's no going back. So we got to adjust our mindset sometimes. We got to encourage ourselves and say, I don't even need to think about what could be because it doesn't matter. This is my vow. This is my promise. I want to honor that. I want to love her. I want to love him. Here's what's fascinating about marriage. Oftentimes, we can use the illustration of marriage being a box, okay? Pretty little box. This is actually the box that Sarah holds all the novel-like love letters I used to write her when we were younger. It's interesting, though. I got older, and I stopped writing. I don't know what happened. It's just, anyways, sorry, babe. I just want to publicly say that so we can talk about it later. Now, the marriage box is this idea that, hey, when we get married, we are going to open this box of awesomeness. It's going to be great. What's inside? Companionship, sexual fulfillment, intimacy, respect, love, all these great things, home-cooked meals. I don't know if that's you. All these things, and you are so excited, and you say, I cannot wait to open the marriage box. And then you got that marriage license, and you had the wedding, and you signed it, and the marriage license was almost like the key into the box, and you opened up the box on your wedding day, and do you know what you found inside? Are you ready? Nothing. In case you want, nothing. Do you know why? Because marriage is not a box that you open and it's full. Marriage is a box you open and you and I start to fill. We start to fill. Love is not marriage. Love is people. And the more we love, the more we fill up the box. We think about all these things, and I think we have we see it oftentimes, a misconception because we expected after that wedding day it was just going to pour out with all this. But the truth is, if we keep taking things out and never putting things in, eventually the box becomes empty. And do you know what happens when the box becomes empty? We start to think things like, well, maybe this wasn't meant to be. Maybe he's not the one. Newsflash, there isn't a one. It's just the one you picked. Maybe the grass is greener on the other side. Our mind starts to wander. We start to think things and say things, and some start to do things. And I want to encourage you tonight to remember the promise we made, to be encouraged that this box can be filled at any moment of any day by your choosing. And you and I have got to fill this thing up so that our marriages can thrive. Gentlemen, do you remember? Say yes. Do you remember when her dad, or whoever it was, walked her down the aisle? Do you remember this? Yeah, good answer. And man, she looked gorgeous. She had on a white wedding dress with beautiful shiny things, babe. And he walked her down the aisle, and as she came to you, you were thinking thoughts I won't say publicly, but you were thinking all the great things. And as he got to you, do you know what that symbolism was? It was the picture of when Almighty God brought Eve to Adam. And he said, I am entrusting you with my daughter. And her dad, or her grandfather, or whoever it was, said the same thing to you. I am bringing her to you and entrusting her to you. Please take care of her. And for ladies, you didn't have the same symbol, but the same thing took place for you. As his parents handed him to you and said, I know, the mom especially, you're going to take care of him. I know you're going to nurture him. I know you're going to help him because he can't do a lot of things on his own. I know. Sorry, too soon. I was for week 2. I'm sorry. Forgive me. But they entrusted them to you. And so remember that promise. Remember that commitment we made. And remember the trust that was put in you. Our marriages are never going to be perfect. And you may be wondering, how are we going to do this? How do we fill the box? Well, guess what? That's what we're here for. Over the next few weeks, we're going to unpack a little bit more and a little bit more. We're going to learn together. We're going to grow together. It's going to be great. But I want you to be encouraged. Don't quit. Don't give up. I don't know where you are in this room. It doesn't matter how old you are, how long you've been married, or how short. Don't give up. We got to be different. We've got to be different. And if you think you can do it without the Lord, you're in for a long road. And that's the main thing we hope you'll hear over these next few weeks. We'll dig into that more, but be encouraged by that. There is hope no matter how far, how tough, or how deep it is. Our Lord can help you get through anything, and that's his promise.